Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? Now, before I go on to the show and who's on the show today, I just want to say I've just come off a couple of the best weeks of the last year and a half. I started out the last week of July in New York City, prepping and rehearsing for a show that ultimately did not happen, followed by a week with amazing friends, amazing food, ice cream on a cone, and we capped it off with Guns N' Roses at MetLife Stadium. So I am home, refreshed, recharged, and ready to do this. George Red Speaks is on the show today. Now, George is a former radio and television personality who found his calling in comedy. And then ultimately, George had to go to prison, but it's what he did in prison that's pretty amazing. He came out stronger than ever and is currently killing it on the Dallas comedy scene. I'm going to let him tell you all about it. Let's check it out. You're ready, man. Tell me who you are, man.
My name is George Red Speaks. I am a comedian out of Texas, and I am on Is This Breakfast Included podcast.
The promo right off the bat. Man, like I was telling you before, I don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
But what I do know is pretty interesting. So how did you get into comedy?
Oh, man. I've been in entertainment for 18 years already.
Mm-hmm. What did you do before comedy?
I started in music, and then I got into radio, got recognized, and I was able to get into a prominent radio station out here. And then after that, I got into television as a VJ for MTV3 when they were out here in Dallas. And then I used that to generate and promote events, concerts, and I got into the club scene, trying to figure my way out through my 20s. Like, where did I fit in? I was having a good time. I didn't enjoy radio. I loved doing music, but I was already kind of I had made a lot of traction doing these other things, and I was having a very good time. I liked TV. I just didn't like the business of TV. Mm-hmm. I started my own show called Infamous Rhythm TV. And then doing the promotions and stuff, getting into the business, the bar business, and I've always been interested on the business part of things. Like, how does it operate? What licenses do you need and stuff? So then I had a couple of bars that I GM'd at, and then I learned it. And then I had a restaurant, and then also a club that I was partial owner of. Didn't enjoy it. So I was trying all these different things. I was just like trying to get my footing somewhere. Yeah. I always loved comedy though. Stand-up comedy, I was obsessed with it. Never in my wildest dream did I think to ever even try it. I was just like, no, that's for the gods, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I wouldn't even know where to start, you know? And I didn't know any comedians. I didn't know anybody in that business. So it wasn't even in my thought process. So I stayed promoting and stuff and doing the television show. And then there was a godsend. There's a guy named Flo Hernandez. He's a comedian here out of Dallas. He's been doing it almost 20 years. He's amazing. And I got invited by someone that I was doing business with, one of my sponsors, to go to this comedy show that they were throwing. And he headlined, man, and it was just amazing. I was clutching my stomach. I was laughing so hard. I had to meet him afterwards. Yeah. Right? I wanted to see if he wanted to help me work on the TV show, help me write some skits, something. Right? And I gave him my card. He called me the next day, and we just became good friends. And then he asked me, he was just like, you're doing all these promotions. Why don't you promote a comedy show? And I was just like, my demographic is a whole bunch of gangsters from the hood. You know what I'm saying? You know, they come late at night, you know, and even at night when you're throwing a big thing at a club, they still show up late. Yeah. You know, you're only there from 10 to 2, right? As far as the party is concerned, and they're still getting there at 11:30, 12. And I just don't think they would come early enough for a comedy show. Comedy shows usually around 7 o'clock. It's more like dinner and comedy, and then you'll have a late show at 9 o'clock, something like that. Date night type of stuff. Well, finally he talked me into it, and I did a show, and he headlined it, and it was amazing. We sold out. Sold out. It tripped me out. People came out to the comedy show, and I was out and at home before midnight, and I made the same amount of money, and I was like, wow. Right. So I went in head on the business side, and we just started I started, producing shows throughout the city and throughout Texas. And then my brother, the late G Spook, he just passed away a few months ago. Very prominent radio station personality. He was on K104. He was on 97.9 The Beat when he passed away. And he's like a brother to me. And we grew up together. And one day we're all sitting around, and he's talking about he wants to do comedy, this, and that. And so I put him on a show, and he wanted to back out of it because he couldn't write nothing. So then he asked me for some help. I said, where you at? At the time, he was at K104. And he was like, I'm at the studio, man. I'm out here. He has 3 days until he has to perform. He has nothing, right? He had a whole month, right, to write something down. I was like, well, what do you got? And he was talking about boogers and farts and shit. I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that's not stand-up, dude. That's child's play, you know? So anyway, when I started working there, he's the one that got me the job there when I was younger. I was 22 or 23. And when I started working there, I had a different experience than him. When he came out, he got hired on as DJ on Display, right? And he just came out, and they just pushed his stardom. And he was the first Hispanic person to be on K104. And when I got on, they wanted me to clean the display. And I was like, oh, shit. So I had this whole thing where I wrote for him my experience, where it was, being the only Mexican at an all-black radio station.
Yeah.
Being a minority at a minority radio station is tough.
Yeah.
And I go through this whole bit, whatever, and I wrote it for him, and it worked for him. We started doing comedy shows and stuff like that. Not me, I was just writing.
Yeah. And
it was really cool because he would always give me the credit for it. When people would ask, how'd you come up with that material? He's like, man, my brother Street. That's what they used to call me. My brother Street, he writes for me. And then one day he calls me to the house. He's like, "Little dude, I don't want to do comedy no more. It's just too scary." He goes, "I fucking hate it." And I was like, "What are you talking about, dude? You have like groups of 300 people just crying over you, dude. It's hilarious." And he was just like, "Yeah, dude." He goes, "I belong in a radio station with my small cast, behind a microphone. This is what I like to do." He goes, I get too nervous. He goes, "I end up smoking too much weed." He's like, "It's starting to become a problem." And I understood where he was coming from. And I was just like, I understand, dog. I said, that's cool. We'll just drop it. And he goes, "Well, why don't you should do it. Can I cuss on here?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Why don't you fucking do it?" He's like, "You're the one that writes all this shit.
You can't
anyway."
say that. I'm just
And it got in my mind. I was like, maybe I should fucking do it.
Yeah.
So I started asking the comics that I had been hiring, and everyone's just like, "Yeah, bro, you shouldn't do it." And I wasn't getting encouragement from nowhere. So like 2 years have passed, and finally that itch just kept scratching at me. And the more I thought about it, it gets to a point where I start getting upset when there's something I want to do and I'm not doing it. I just get in a bad mood, and I'm just like,
affect everything.
Yeah, it's like having like an abscess or something. You just feel all this pressure and shit. You're just like, I need to release on this shit, And it was just killing me that I wasn't trying it, and no one was giving me no like leeway to do it. No one was giving me opportunity. I was asking people, and they were just giving me the runaround. And by the time I knew it, I bought too many people, too many lunches, and I was just like, I'm just going to do it myself. I produce my own shows. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to start by doing a podcast. And I said, every time I say something, and I'm going to get a whole bunch of people I like, and we're just going to talk about all these crazy issues. And every time I say something funny, I'm going to write it down. Right? And that's what I started doing. I named it George Red Speaks. That's where the name came from. Okay. Because I figured, it's easy to remember, and it's exactly what I'm doing. It's no need to get too creative with it. Or maybe I'm just not that creative, And and I started doing that at Valley of the Kings at their studio. I don't know if you probably heard of them. They have an amazing studio in Dallas, an amazing room for bands and everything. It's beautiful. Anyway, I ended up interviewing some burlesque girls, and it was a company called the Ruby Review, and they're amazing. Right. So I'm interviewing them, and I told them, see, no one knew that I had this strategy. This is how I'm going to get in comedy. I was just doing it. And the thing is with burlesque, it goes all the way back. That was like the first form of stripping, basically, back to like the 30s, vaudeville days, stuff like that. And because it would take them so long to get dressed for the next number, they would have a comedian come out and make people laugh. Yeah. So they'd build up the sexual tension, and the comedian would come out and give them the release, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling them about it, and she was like, yeah. She goes, of course. She was like, how do you know so much about it? I was just like, I'm just a comedy nerd, you know? And I said, I was like, plus I'm a comedian. She was like, really? Well, we're doing this show. We're coming on our 10-year anniversary and stuff like that. She goes, we'd love you to come out and perform. And one of my co-hosts is looking at me like, you fucking liar. Her name's Victoria, right? And she's been working with me for years on all different types of projects. So she's like one of my best friends, right? And she's just like, fucking stupid. She's giving me that look. I'm just like, stop looking at me, And I'm lying through my teeth, right? She's like, how long have you been doing it? I said, well, I've been producing for a minute, and things are working out. And I said, 10 years, huh? I said, what y'all should do? Y'all should do it at the House of Blues. That'd be awesome for burlesque. It's a beautiful stage, right? She goes, do you know people out there? I was like, yeah, I'll get y'all a show. I didn't know no one out there. Looking at Victoria, she's like, you fucking liar, right? I'm trying to set something up.
Yeah.
Because now I'm putting the pressure on me, right?
The old fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, baby. So she was like, yeah, let's do it. So when the show was over, she was like, are you serious? Do you really want to produce our 10-year anniversary show? I was like, yeah. Right. And I said, let's meet and we'll discuss numbers and stuff like that. And then I'll get out there and I'll start putting it together. Right. So that's exactly what I did. I put the comedians together and got a hold of House of Blues and all that. And that was really hard to do, getting a hold of the House of Blues. That kind of happened by accident, how I came across it. I was trying to work it, kept getting tossed to corporate, but it just so happened that I knew someone that used to be a manager at the Improv in Arlington that was working over there at the time. So that was my in. Well, anyway, we put it together and it was successful. And that's where I performed my first comedy show, which now I hear from everyone it was the stupidest move ever. Because when I got off, everyone was just like, man, you did good. How many mics have you been hitting? I didn't know what the fuck that meant. Mics? They're like, yeah, open mics. They're like, your shit came out like really good. Well, I had been working on it for a whole month. And all I did was write a 7-minute set, which now I know is really hard when you're first getting into comedy. But I've always been a writer. I wrote scripts. I wrote skits. I wrote, music. So I'm always writing, and I'm a perfectionist and I put it to the degree where I light a fire under my ass like I just did, to where I have to do it good, or I'm going to just, sink or swim, But then when I heard about these open mics, I was like, oh shit, I can do this every week. So I started doing mics around and I just started developing material, and it kind of came pretty quick. I adapted very quickly with it. It's a hard craft to do, right?
Yeah, it is.
But I felt like, because people were saying, man, you're just like passing people up. And I was like, well, it isn't that I'm born with this talent. It's just that y'all not seeing the other 15 or 14 at the time, 14 years of everything I've been doing. That kind of translates into this. And also me being a comedy head and always looking on how their setups are and just trying to like pick up the structure of joke writing. Because it isn't really like a joke you tell at a bar, right? It's knock, knock, who's there? You know, it's nothing like that. Basically, you're telling a story, but every 8 to 12 seconds, you have to have some type of punchline, something that's just going to be funny. And
Bring it home.
Exactly. It's very elusive.
Yeah.
It's an elusive way because you can't really say anything on exactly how you deliver it. It's just a whole bunch of things happening at once. And some people can grasp it, and then other people, it takes them a long time to develop that skill or that, that thing, that instinct, you know?
Yeah.
So
who were your guys? Who are your heroes?
In comedy or in general?
In comedy.
In comedy? Oh man. And I know that he's not a stand-up comedian, but I have to say my number one is Jerry Lewis.
Oh.
I grew up in a Christian household, right? And we're really religious and strict. So all we saw was black and white comedy.
Do you watch that telethon every year?
Oh yeah, dude. My dad always had that shit on. But all the Jerry Lewis movies, like Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, I would always act out his shit, right? And then, Bob Hope and the Three Stooges, and just, so many oldie stuff. But I would have to say Jerry Lewis is what first got me as a kid, where I was just goofy as fuck because I would always watch his shit.
Yeah.
And then going into stand-up, I would say the main guy that really influenced me was like Chris Rock.
Okay.
Chris Rock was, to me, the best comedian when I was a kid, when I was like in my teenage years. Like, I was just addicted to all his shit. I couldn't wait for the next special. Every 2 years, I'd be waiting. Every 3 years.
Yeah.
And it just sucked because you had to wait. We didn't have YouTube. You couldn't watch clips every time you wanted to laugh. All you had was this DVD for 3 years. Yeah. But then like Martin Lawrence stand-up is fucking hilarious. I like Martin Lawrence. This is all when I first got into comedy. Martin Lawrence, Chris Rock, Chappelle now, Bill Burr right now I'm really stuck on him, and Eddie Murphy. So
yeah, man, I love it. I love comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a huge comedy fan. So all those guys you just mentioned.
Yeah. And then there's a lot more. There's so much more. Like, I love Joe Rogan. I love, I like when Lopez had first came out, George Lopez had first came out. Now, I had saw Paul Rodriguez and stuff as a kid, but he was always older than me.
Yeah.
Right? When George Lopez came out, it was, I was like 20, 21 probably. Yeah, I was 21 because I had just released an album. And I remember my friend had the DVD. And he put it on, and I was like, oh, shit, this motherfucker's hilarious. And he's brown like me. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't really see that.
No, you didn't.
It was very rare. You had Carlos Mencia out there. And, it was never, I never got into Carlos Mencia when I was younger. His comedy just seemed real cheesy to me. But I've seen him live, and he's a great performer.
Yeah.
He's a powerful performer, but seeing it on TV is completely different than watching it live, Yeah. But George Lopez was the first time where I was just like, man, dude, what if I could do it? I was like, nah, I'm just going to stick with this shit.
So after starting these open mic nights, do you remember the first time that you, as a performer, as a comedian, got paid to do comedy and what it was like?
Well, it was very quickly because I'm not just a comic. I have the skill to produce shows, and I also have the contacts with all the venues that I've been working with for over a decade, right? So I have a good track record. So,
but as a comedian,
I would produce and I would perform, and I'd get paid that way. But the first time I ever got paid, it was a guy named T-Bone. He goes by T-Bone. He's a Dallas comedian, and it was in I forgot what part of Dallas, man, but it was hood as shit, bro. I was like, what the fuck, where am I at? You know what I'm saying? But the place was really nice when you went in. It was called Emerald Lounge or the Emerald or something like that, and it was like a grown and sexy, African American joint. And it was the first time I was going to perform to a predominantly like one race. I had never done that before, but he had paid me $50 to come out. They do 10 minutes, which I was like, what? That was really cool. They're very professional. And everyone laughed. And I was like, oh, shit. Right? So I started doing a lot of black rooms and stuff because they just appreciated me. You know what I'm saying? And I learned a lot of comedy from them because I learned what they laughed at, what they didn't laugh at. When I saw other comics, man, they were just really expressive and stuff. And I was just like, man, okay, I need to work on that on my delivery. I need to work on it, and then every time I would talk to, all the comics that would run through this circuit were very generous with information, not like going to some stuck up clubs or stuck up bars where it was very cliquish.
Yeah.
And people were very folded with information. Like they didn't really let you know how to be successful. They didn't want you to be successful. It was very cutthroat. It was fucked up.
They didn't want you to take their heat.
Yeah. So what I did was, because of that, this idea had created, I just evolved in my head where it was like, I would like to start a fraternity for comics, right? Where in this fraternity, you're accepted, right? And in this fraternity, we help each other. We write with each other. We give each other notes. And it wouldn't be, I don't want to break this cliquish thing that was going on. And then right before I was able to really execute, I did my first show as it was called Stand Up Society. That's how it first started. And then I got locked up. I got locked up, man.
Let's talk about that. That's what I know about you. Let's talk about that for a minute.
All right. Yeah, so...
And then we'll come back to the stand-up society.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's in order. That's in the order that it happened. Yeah. So I was doing comedy for about a little over a year, and then I got locked up. I had a lot of shit that was piling up over the years, and I got a DWI case. It was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the judge was like, "Fuck this shit, dude. You're going to prison." Right? I mean, I could have did a 10-year probation thing, but they weren't going to allow me to travel and stuff. And I just barely found the thing that I loved the most in the world was comedy.
Yeah.
I was just like, I found it. All the things that I've tried, that whole fucking ass long journey that I went through, I finally fell in love with something that I'm completely obsessed with, right? And passionate about. And I was just like, I had the freaking blinders on like they do with the racehorses. And I was like, this is it. And then they're telling me 10-year probation and I can't travel outside Tarrant County. Like, I had to ask permission to go to Dallas.
Wow.
I was like, bitch. Right? And I was like, what's my alternative? My lawyer's like, they'll probably give you about 8 years in prison. You'll probably do 2. I was like, I never been out that long. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, fuck. And I had to make a decision, man. I was just like, I'm going to do the fucking time. If I could get out in 2 years, that gives me a lot of time before I'm 40 to really develop and put out my name and develop relationships and develop my craft, on stage. But if I do this 10-year thing, there's not enough venues to sustain a career. By the time I'm out of this probation thing, if I make it.
Yeah.
If I make it through the 10 years, I mean, I'm going to be a lot more older. I'm going to have a really, really late start. I'm already having a late start because I was in my 30s already. So I picked prison. And that was a tough decision. By some good connections and some people that really helped me out on the outside, I was able to get that 8 dropped to a 4. And then they shot me off out to TDC. And the whole time I was focused on comedy, man. I just kept writing. Every time I would always get a group of guys together.
While inside?
Yeah. And I was always trying to figure out how to make them laugh, and I would write it down. They're like, why are you always writing shit down? What, you a fucking cop? You know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, man, I'm writing down jokes. I'm a stand-up, You can see how I make you laugh, right? They're like, oh, yeah. I was like, yeah, I'll write it down so that way I can use this when I get back out. They're like, what? And so I always carried around this little notebook and shit. And then finally, when I went to TDC, I learned that I need to let everyone know up front so that way they didn't think I was a snitch. Because I saw some motherfuckers get hit. You know what I'm saying? Just for the simple fact that if someone asked you, right? Or just accuse you. Yo, man, you a snitch, right? Now you got to fight him. Those are fighting words. So two things are going to happen. Either when he says, are you a snitch? You're still going to get hit. It doesn't matter if you say yes or no. You're getting hit, right? So you got to hit him first. And either way, that's going to be a fight. So I let everyone know, guys, you know, I'm a comic. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I write my shit down, shit, whatever. And everyone knew me. I got along with everybody. You know what I'm saying? Every now and then, there's just times you just got to get down or whatever. But majority of the time, I was just reading books, man. And I would always hit my mama. Like, I need another book. She's like, I bought you like 5 books. It's only been like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I need more. Right. And I'm just taking them in and writing notes on the books and rereading them. And I don't know how many books. I probably read like 30, 40 books just on comedy, man. I read history on comedy, the rebels of the 50s and 60s. I read George Carlin's book, Bob Saget's book. I read George Lopez's book, The Why You Crying. I read even the Bob Hope book, you know, yeah. Lucy, the Lucy book, Joan Rivers. That was a really good book. Really good. She really talked about stand-up in there. I learned a lot. And then I'm watching this TV show, morning show, whatever. And there's this guy they're interviewing. He's started the first comedy institute in Manhattan, New York, back in the 80s. Right? It's called the American Comedy Institute. And it's like in the New Yorker building. And he used to be like a playwright and a director. And he used to work Broadway. But all of a sudden, these famous comedians wanted him to help them develop their acts, right? Yeah. So, for instance, like an alumni from there is like Jim Gaffigan, right? He was there with Stephen Rose for over a year. You know, he left marketing and went into comedy, stand-up comedy, and then Lena Dunham. There's just so many names out there that he's done things with, and so I got his book. I fell in love with that book. He really made me understand comedy on a whole different level. I reread that book so many times, man, because it always made me happy. And one time, I was like, fuck it, man. Maybe I just need something to keep my mind out of here, right? So I'm like, maybe if I write the school, let's give me some brochures or something. I want to go to school when I get out. So I wrote the school. I got the address from my mom. I was going to drop the letter in. And before I dropped the letter in, I was like, well, fuck this shit. I said, I'm going to write Stephen Rosenfeld. Attention, Stephen Rosenfeld, right? So I rewrote the letter and told him I was in prison, why I was in prison, my comedy career before prison. I haven't sent him that article from the Dallas Observer. So he knew I was legit. And then, dude, he wrote me back personally. And not only did he write me back, he asked me if there was anything he could do to help get comedy started, stand-up comedy in prison. So I wrote him back, and he wrote me back, and he was like, well, what's the name of the ward in this, whatever. Well, I got transferred to the Cleveland unit over there by Houston. And then he wrote the warden, and he wrote I got accepted into this business program by Baylor University, where you actually go through the curriculum and you get a certificate and everything for business. You learn how to write a business plan and stuff like that. So he got a hold of them as well. And then all of a sudden I started doing stand-up comedy, 3-4 times a week in prison for a year and a half. So when people say, well, you can't count prison, I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Yes, I can. Because I'm getting in front of, it's even harder because you get in front of the same audience, and I'm like in education, right? In the classrooms, there's a teacher named Ginger Vet, right? And he would let me do it in his classroom. I'd do the GED one, right? But that teacher didn't let me cuss. Ginger Vet didn't give a fuck. He's like, say whatever you want. And he would laugh too, right? And I would have 30, 40 guys, and it's the same guys, right? So I got to come up with new material every fucking week. It's hard. Because you can't try. It's not like an open mic where you can try the same material over and over and over until it feels good.
Were there any other guys in prison that would?
This is crazy. So there's 2 guys that got attracted to what I was doing, and there was a guy named James Morales, another guy named Avery Wilkins, and we became our own little comedy group. Yeah. Right. And we would have writing sessions every day. We'd go to rec, run a couple miles, lift some weights, and then we'd have like another hour or two to blow off. So that's when we would write. And then it's crazy. When I got out, I became really good friends with both these guys. James, I haven't heard from since I left, but Avery, he got out recently, about 6 months ago. Yeah, about 6 months ago. And I told him, I said, I'm going to come pick you up when you get out. You got to write me, though. You got to let me know when you get out. And he wrote me. He told me. And I was there. I picked him up, took him out, showed him everything I was doing with comedy and stuff, because I made a lot of a huge stride in the past year and a half. I got to go on tour with Alex Raimundo, which is the owner and partners with Ron White with Number One Tequila, on his tour bus, dude. I'm just like, golly, last year I was in prison. Now I'm on this big ass tour bus featuring for one of the Latin Kings of Comedy, right? Yeah. Because the Latin Kings of Comedy was Paul Rodriguez, Cheech Marin, George Lopez, Alex Raimundo, and Joey Medina. Right, so now I'm working with this guy. Now I even have a chance to work with Joey Medina here, hopefully in September. And I'm just tripping the fuck out. But anyway, so I ended up picking up Avery, and then now Avery's doing comedy with me out here. He's doing very well too.
When you got out, did you put back the society?
Yeah. So when I got out, well, actually, it developed more in prison. I would always think about it, and I'm scratching different logos and what the name's going to be. And I was just like, Stand Up Society doesn't have a very good ring. It's kind of whatever. And then I was in there, and I'm like I said, I'm always writing and stuff, right? And I remember one of my friends were watching TV or whatever, and I'm over there working. He's like, man, you're always in that notebook, right? He's like, man, you're like a junkie. I said, I am a junkie when it comes to comedy, right? I'm a real junkie. Like, this is all I do. This is all I think about. So I dream about this shit. It's fucked up. I lost friends and family, not because they hate me, but just because I'm so focused on comedy. Like, you don't fucking talk about nothing else, right? You're not even normal anymore. I was like, I'm a fucking junkie, right? I'm a comedy junkie, right? And then the fans, right, or people that listen to comedy that actually go to shows, they're junkies too.
Yeah.
They always want it around. They have the DVD collection at home. They have the downloads. They know what's going on. They're just fans of comedy, but they're junkies. And I was like, what is something that people would like that they would take ownership of? Stand-up comedians would love to call themselves comedy junkies. And fans would love to have a shirt that says, I'm a comedy junkie, right? So then I came up with the logo, which I wanted to have kind of like a crossbone skater kind of. I wanted it to be kind of rock and roll, but funny at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So I love the crossbones, right? So what I did was I came up with, like a happy face, but it's missing, it only has 3 teeth. It's kind of crooked because he's fucked up,
yeah,
right? But still smiling, laughing, right? And one eye's X'd out, right? And then he has one eye, and I use 2 microphones for the crossbones in the back, and the cords come down and they tie a bow tie on the bottom. And I was just like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. And they still kind of hang and slang because, they're mic cords, right? So I'll show you a logo before you leave. Or I'll just give you a shirt.
I know.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I came up with that. And when I came out during the pandemic, like when lockdown happened. So that happened March 19th. I came out March 25th. I lucked out because they were keeping motherfuckers in there. They didn't know they were sick or not.
Yeah.
Right. And it was weird, man. It's like when I got locked up, the world was normal. I come back out and everything's closed. Right. Man, all the race riots are happening. Fucking Trump is fucking tripping the fuck out. It's turning more orange and shit. I'm just like, how the fuck am I gonna come out of lockup for 2 years and the whole world's on lockdown? And the whole world's on lockdown. My mom's all just like, anything you want me on. She was excited to see me. I want that Popeyes chicken sandwich. They're like, they're closed. I'm like, bitch. I've been seeing that commercial for 2 years. The one
people were fighting over.
Yeah. Because I was like, what's the fucking big deal? I said, that's the first thing I'm eating when I get out. I don't even eat chicken sandwiches, bro. Anyway, and then she was like, anything else? What do you want? I was like, I want to see my son. I want to see my family. They're like, yeah, we can't come out of the house. I was just like, well, what the fuck you asking me for? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, yeah, so I come out and but everything opened back in May. So I did the first independent comedy show in the nation. The first professional show the Improv had did. Right. And then I got with Hat Tricks, who's an old friend of mine named Jason. He owns Hat Tricks in Louisville.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Jason. I was just like, he was like, hey, man, it's good to see you're out. And I was like, man, it's good to see things are starting to open up again. And I was a little tripped out. Right. And this is before they shut it down again. It was like, I forgot it was May something. And I said, all right, man, I want to do a comedy show here. And I haven't performed since I was in prison. Right. And he was just like, yeah, sure, man. Just what date? And I said, I need a Friday or Saturday, man. I need a weekend. He was just like, fuck, you take the next weekend. And I was like, fuck, that's only 1 week to promote it. I was like, fuck it, man. I'll take a risk, right? So I got some of my comedy friends together and we did a showcase. And it was cool because I got the headline the first show. I only had 10 minutes prepared, that I was ready to do out in the free world. 10 minutes prepared with a certain order, with a set list, right? And, dude, we sold out that whole place. There was like 100 people there, right? I made some good money. I was like, damn, hell yeah, right? And I paid my comics. I mean, it was just a great night, man. And since then, I just started. No one else was doing it. There was a lot of comics that were arguing with each other. How could you be out there, risking your life and risking other people's lives and stuff like that? And I was just like, I've been locked up. You're telling me that I need to be dodging the coronavirus. I said, I've been dodging, dicks and shanks for the past 2 years. You know what I'm saying? You think I give a fuck about this? Now, am I going to take the safety measures? Of course. You got to wear the masks. We have hand sanitizer everywhere. We make sure the waitresses have the table sanitizer, keep everything clean, social distancing. I'm following all the guidelines, and we never had no one get corona at none of our shows. And dude, so I started like 5 open mics. So I had a mic. It started on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And so comics were just coming out by buttloads. I got to meet everyone. I knew anyone and everyone that wanted to come out, and discovered some awesome comedies, some awesome comics, which like Liz Splat, she's a killer, powerful comic, just started. I was just like, she gets the biggest laughs, dude. It's insane, me and Jamie Gravey have been friends for a long time. Anyway, Zach Sprung, another big producer here and a good comic here in DFW. I met the Vatos Chistosos. We've been going on tour together. I'm going to be in Austin with them at Santa Cruz Theater next month, and then also in Santa Ana, California. Me and Diego have gone to Vegas and performed, and just everything's just blown up. You just met all these people and developed the community. And then I was just like, I'm going to start pushing the Comedy Junkie Society thing, see if it takes. But I wasn't going to say I'm starting this group. I start whispering in people's ear. And you have to follow certain guidelines to get in it. So the first thing was someone has to vouch for you. Good person of good character, someone that you want to work with,
Yeah.
And then you have to have 2 vouchers actually. And then on the second thing is you've had to be on 2 professional shows that we've produced as Comedy Junkies before we let you in. Right. So what I did was I whispered in some people's ears that are known comedians like Jamie Gravey, Gretchen Young, people that are established. Like Jamie Gravey's on tour with Eddie Griffin. Eddie Griffin just, he got, a residency at I forgot which casino in Vegas. Well, on the 26th, Jamie's going to be there to open with him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, these are comedians that are doing things, and they were just like, "Yeah, we got your back. We want to be down." Right? I was like, "Great." So I at least got these 5 members, influencers, right? And then I started whispering in people's ears that I liked, and they started liking it and stuff like that. And I was like, "Okay." So then all of a sudden, they start telling other people. And I wanted it to organically grow. Yeah. I wanted it to take, And then all of a sudden at the mics, people start coming up, hey, man, what's this Comedy Junkie Society thing that Jamie and everyone's talking about? And then I got to spill, what it was and stuff. And when they're interested and they're coming looking for it, I was just like, great. These are the people I want to work with because they already know who's involved. They want to work with them. And these are quality comics that do good business as well, because you don't want someone that does bad business, you know?
Yeah.
But then we had club owners and venue promoters and stuff that want to be part of it, and camera guys, you know, that their main thing is comedy. So now we have a circuit, you know, and then now it empowers the comic. Like, I don't have dues or nothing like that. Like, you don't got to pay nothing to be part of it. You just got to be cool and funny.
Yeah.
Right. Or somehow a way where you can network. It's like building our own phone book, you know?
Yeah.
Our own network where it's a trusted network where people can work together.
So if a club calls you and says, "Hey, do you have a comedian, or can you do this?" Or
no, well, I wanted to empower the comedians.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of producers, like, you got to go through me. And they get percentages.
Okay. Yeah.
So my thing is, now when someone goes, they can put the logo on their card if they want to, right? They can go to a club that I've been successful at.
So the club knows that they're part of this.
When they see the Comedy Junkie, like, hey, you're a Comedy Junkie. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, man. We work with George, or we've worked with Zach, or we've worked with Diego from Vatos, or we've worked with someone, right?
Yeah.
And they're just like, all right, cool. Yeah. There must be good people. Now, most times, you're going to have a decision maker that hit one of us up, one of the people that have been around for a minute, and just get another vouch. Hey, man, this guy says he's a Comedy Junkie. You know what I'm saying? Is it good for business? And more than likely, I say yes. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's someone that very new. I'd be like, they're very funny, great guy or girl, right? But I just don't know if, I don't know if I don't know what kind of draw they have as a producer.
Yeah.
But good people.
Yeah.
You know? I said,
maybe a good opener.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually the people I have in Comedy Junkie got at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes. They can feature.
Okay.
You know? So it's, you know, I bring people in that can carry a crowd. Like I said, they have to have done 2 professional shows with me. And I'm very picky on who I put on my shows, you know?
Yeah.
Because you want to give the audience a good show, you know?
Do you write for any other comedians?
No.
Being a writer, you write for yourself?
I write for myself. And
has anyone approached you to, like, hey man, can you help me?
No, as far as helping, I mean, we'll have like writing circles and stuff like that. So basically, a writing circle, everyone does it different, man.
Kind of like a songwriting circle. Like, I got a part here. Can you put something here? Can you help me out?
Or it's like an idea. It's crazy. Like, there's a guy named Marcus Olin that came in from him, Genevieve, and Justin Essemacher. Y'all need to look into these people, man. They're amazing right now. They're in Austin, and now Genevieve's opening up for Joe Rogan and shit. Like, it's amazing. They've only been here like 3 months. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, they had an awesome writing system, right? So basically, all day long, they're writing. They always work together, live together, whatever. So Marcus has this whiteboard, right? And we'll all just be talking shit to each other, whatever. And to us, that's we're writing, right? And as soon as something's funny or a subject or whatever, writes it down. And then we'll still be talking and we'll be attacking it every now and then he'll just write out a sentence, write out a punchline, and then it will develop, you know, and whoever came up with the subject, that's your shit. Right?
Yeah.
Or like the way I do it a little bit different. Like with people that write with me, I have my system is, all right, say if it's 4 of us at the kitchen table, right? And I'll be like, everyone gets 10 minutes. It's going to be a 40-minute, probably an hour writing session. Everyone gets 10 minutes, right? So in 10 minutes, one person will put their bit out or anything they're working on, right? And they'll go through different bits. And while they're going, they'll be writing. I mean, everyone's writing notes on it, right? So then after they're done with the 10 minutes, us 3 would be like, well, maybe if you said it like that was really funny. But if you said it like this, or did you look at it from this point? So no one's really writing for you. They're just giving you notes. What if you said this? And then all of a sudden it becomes a discussion and we're all talking about this bit. And then at the very end of it, no one's writing nothing for no one. Whatever the guy's taken from everyone or the girl's taken from the comic is taken from everyone, they'll develop it on their own. And sometimes they'll keep an idea or not. And the same thing with me.
Yeah.
So I love it when I can put my bit, and I have a group of trusted comics around, and then they'll throw me all these ideas, and then that bit will just grow, you know. But then you'd have to take it on stage, and then it turns into something completely different, you know. Or sometimes, man, it just comes out perfect. That's very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare, but sometimes it happens, man. Sometimes it happens. That's like, you know, you finally get to bust a nut, you know?
Yeah. So you came out of prison into a pandemic quarantine, and all this has happened since then.
Yeah,
Just what you're telling me, the Comedy Junkies, the
all
shows.
this, it's insane. And right now I'm on tour by I'm headlining.
Yeah, I've looked at your schedule. You're pretty busy.
Yeah, and I do it on myself, you know. First off, I never knew if I can travel or not. I mean, every now and then I'd get booked out of town and stuff. And then Alex Raimundo, when I had to deal with him, his whole thing was, he's huge, bro. And the way, all right, this is a really cool story. So at the time, I was producing a lot of shows at Hyenas in the Red Room because no one else was doing it. And I had other shows. Sometimes I had 2 or 3 shows running the same night, different locations, right? Because Comedy Junkies, we had so many comics, right? And that particular night, there was a guy that's one of the partners and also the director of Texas for Number Juan Tequila, right? He was in the audience. I guess I spoke with him, whatever, exchanged numbers that night. And then, actually a friend of mine, she messages me and she was like, hey, that guy, he wants to get a hold of you. Is it okay if I give him your number? I was like, yeah. So then he gives me a call and he goes, hey man, he goes, I really like your set, this, whatever. And, you know, Number Juan Tequila, I'm the referee. I didn't know what Number Juan Tequila was. And he goes, do you know who Alex Raimundo is? I was like, hell yeah. He was like, do you know who Ron White is? I was like, fuck yeah. He was like, well, they own it. He goes, and we're doing sponsoring all these gigs and stuff, and we never do comedy. And 2 of the top comedians own it. And we don't do comedy. We do like rock shows and DJ EDM shows and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh shit. I was like, cool, man. I was like, what do you want to do? He was like, well, I heard you have all these venues. He goes, we'd like to be George Red Speak sponsor, Comedy Junkie Society sponsor, right? I was like, bet, let's fucking do it. Right. So he's like, can you write me a proposal? And I was like, yeah. So I wrote the proposal. And then over the phone, we've had conference calls with the different owners and the CEO and stuff like that. And I did. I asked for a lot of money. You know, I shoot high. Yeah. You know, and then we can negotiate after that, you know? And so he gives me a call and he was just like, he goes, Alex wants to give you a call here in a little bit. Is that okay? Are you free? I was like, Alex Raimundo?
No, I'm busy.
Yeah. And I was actually doing a show. Like I was at Bodega in Fort Worth, and we were having a show. And I was like, no, yeah, tell him to give me a call. And I told one of my friends, like, man, take over, make sure everything runs smoothly and stuff, right? And I went outside. Alex gives me a call, right? And he was like, yeah, can I speak to George? This is Alex Raimundo. I was like, hey, Alex, how you doing? This is George. And we just started talking. And he started asking me a lot of questions. Just drilling me, you know, which you should, anyone you do business with, right? And he's trying to see if I'm the real deal. So he was asking me comedy questions. He was asking me producing questions. He was asking me, well, what if this happened and this happened? How would you deal with that, right? On the road. And, you know, I answered him. He started asking me numbers to see if I knew what in the business, what the numbers usually are. And then he goes, man, to tell you the truth, I was calling you because he goes, your proposal was really well written out. And he goes, I was calling you out of respect to basically let you down. He goes, but after this call, because we ended up talking for like an hour and a half, dude. He was like, but after this conversation, he goes, man, I want to do business with you. He goes, let's not even do the sponsorship. He goes, I think we have a lot more here that we can do. He goes, I've been locked up in this pandemic this whole year. We're talking, this is like November, December, right? Yeah. No, it's like November, right? He goes, I need to get the fuck out the house, dude. He goes, my family's driving me crazy. He goes, I love them. He goes, and I think I'm driving them crazy too. Right? And I was just like, cool. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? He goes, I want to come out to Texas. I want to start doing some shows a little smaller because he usually does arenas and shit like that. And they'll have 5,000, 10,000 people there, right? And he was like, I want to do small shows, 50. He said 50 to 200 people. That's what I want to do. He goes, I want to get my chops back, and I just want to get back into it. And he goes, plus at the end, he goes, I really want to spend time with everybody. He goes, I want to talk to people. I want to take pictures, and he goes, I want to hang out, with the fans and stuff. I was like, that sounds awesome. I was like, where do you see me fitting in? He goes, can you produce a tour for me in Texas? And I said, yeah, sure. I was like, for how long? He was like, let's just do January. We'll start with January, see where it goes. Well, that January ended up going all the way into like the end of March, the first week of May, right? So we worked together for a minute, and I learned so much from him, man. And he was very generous with information as well, and all his backstories and stuff, and just learning how to open up for a real pro. Right. And the notes he would give me and stuff. But also what I did learn, I learned a lot of the business on the road, how to handle things, what to ask for, stuff like that. And, I was in charge of everything, and it was a big task, but it was a great learning experience, a successful one too. And I came out of it saying, I know how to book a tour. Right. And at the time, I've been working all that material that I've had. I've been working a lot on it. So at the time, I had about 30. Now I got 45 minutes. I said, once I get 40, 45 minutes, I'm going to start headlining. And if no one else is going to hire me as a headliner locally, then I'm going to hire myself. I'm going to go on the road, and I'm going to take some comics with me. Right. And that's what I've been doing these past few months. And my schedule's full every month,
Yeah, I know when I reached out to you, you were in town, but then I saw you doing like Lubbock and
then Austin. And all that. So yeah, man. And ever since then, it's been working. And the main thing is like I said, it's the comedy junkie mentality is, helping other comics out. And when you give people opportunity, and you show venues that you have opportunity for them to stretch a little bit and bring some new business in and retain old business, stuff like that. That's people are generating with each other, and we're growing together, and we're all paying bills together.
Yeah.
So it's all about finding the solution of wherever that gap is, where there's a financial opportunity or even personal gain or like growth in their craft. Giving people opportunity just to grow, be better at whatever it is that they're doing,
Yeah.
And then you find that people do the same for you.
Yeah. I think in any industry, you surround yourself with people with the same goal, it's going to go someplace.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, everyone's to blame for if it does or it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And it usually does. Yeah. Because everyone wants that next thing. And when they get there, they want the next thing, And I think it works.
Yeah.
Man, I'm really glad I met you. I'm really glad I reached out to you.
Yeah, I know. It's been awesome,
I think this might go further.
Hey, dude, it's been a great conversation, man.
Yeah, I love that you controlled the conversation because a lot of times I'm pulling things out. Yeah. But I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
This podcast is called Is Breakfast Included?
Yes.
And if it was, what would you have?
Oh, man. Breakfast? Everything.
That's my standard question. That gets asked regardless.
Yeah. Man, it has to have bacon, sausage, maple syrup. I don't really eat pancakes or waffles or nothing like that, but I use that maple syrup on that sausage and the bacon and hash browns and eggs, man. That's my thing. With the tortilla, though.
I was going to say that's an old school Mexican breakfast. the syrup on the sausage.
Yeah, man. With the tortilla, though. Some hot sauce.
Man, where can people find you online?
Everything's George Red Speaks. That's just the way you spell it. George Red, but red with two D's like double D's like big titties, But on all over social media, George Red Speaks. It's all the same.
You have anything coming up?
Yeah,
for the year, anything coming up for the year?
Well, I'm just touring around right now, working a lot in Austin. I think the biggest shows, if wherever this gets out, if there's anything in Austin, or any listeners in Austin, come out to Santa Cruz Theater on the 7th and the 20. Jesus Christ will be there. The 21st, come out there. It's going to be a great show. Other than that, if you really want to find out where I'm at, just go to @GeorgeRed_Speaks, and I always have my itinerary updated every 2 weeks, so people could, find where to buy the tickets with the ticket link or whatever it is.
Oh, right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time to do this, man.
Definitely, man. I appreciate you.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah,
really.
it's awesome, man. Let's do it again.
All right, man.
All right, brother.
Well, right on. That was George Red Speaks. You can find him on all the social media platforms under @GeorgeRedSpeaks. He's a great comedian, a great guy, a very savvy comedian, and I hope to be working with him again in the future. All right, guys, I am done. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.